local election headquarters. This is The Insiders with Dave Price.
If the Democrats hope to keep the majority in the U.S. House, then they may need Cindy Axne to win on election night. If Republicans want to move back to the majority, they may need Zach Nunn to win. So right now, Democrats have an 8-vote edge in the U.S. House. There are 3 seats vacant right now. Of course, abortion rights has become a big part of this 3rd District congressional campaign race. We're going to begin with the Republican primary debate. Little flashback. Remember, we had it back in May. Nunn has faced questions about his answer ever since. Should all abortions be illegal in this country? Hand up if you say yes.
Just to be clear.
All abortions, no exceptions, should be illegal. So you all think there should be no exceptions. From the debate.
Yes.
And then there is what you've said since then, that you do have certain exceptions here.
Yeah. Explain
to people where your position is.
Well, Dave, you were there for the entire debate. The reality
there
is...
There are commercials to prove it.
Exactly. I thought you were running for office for a while here. The reality is that, you know, good people need to be able to have a conversation about this. The debate afforded us the opportunity to have a more fulsome conversation. There was a moment where you asked us to raise our hands. I think a binary conversation here, and not throwing media under the bus, but really puts Iowans in 2 camps. And I don't think that it's a binary decision for most Americans. I know it's not for most Iowans. Good people can have a discussion on this, and let me be very clear where I stand. I'm 100% pro-life. It's how I grew up. At the same time, I have a strong voting record in recognizing that late-term abortions are something that we have led on here in Iowa to say no to, with the exception for health of the mother. We also have a bill, and again, this is pre-Dobbs, that identified exceptions for that very rare but frightening situation of rape and incest. 2 very good votes on this. We've been a leader on that. On the other side of the aisle, you have my opponent, who has voted for a far more extreme version of Roe, taxpayer-funded abortion up until, you know, day of birth. I think that Iowans want to be able to have this conversation. And what Roe did was put the courts in a position where they made a call on this for roughly 40 years. But what Dobbs did is to say, that's not in the Constitution. Let's turn this back over to the states, and let states be those learning laboratories that Jefferson talks about to put out recommendations where they are. And I think that we are seeing extremists on both sides start to say, well, what really works for our communities? And I think that's an important conversation we need to allow Iowans to have before we put anybody in Washington, D.C. who's going to vote for this and put a federal mandate out there, as this Democratic Congress has done, before they have an opportunity to talk with their constituents.
Okay, you mentioned it's not a binary choice. I think people, what they're struggling with is in that moment of the debate, you could have said, hey, I want to protect babies in almost every case, in the extreme cases of rape, incest, life of the mother. But that is what you're telling people, is that is truly your position, is you want those exceptions protected, if you will.
Yeah, and Dave, I want to be very clear with everybody who's watching today. You were at that debate. Who was it that interrupted you and said, we're not going to do just a hand raise on this. We need to have a conversation?
True, but you did not make that point there of when you supported exceptions, and you could have.
We highlighted in our voting record that we all support the life of the mother and the life of the child. And I want to be very clear on that. We have great voting record on this, and we support explicitly exceptions for rape, incest, health of the mother. As a father of 5.
Like Fetal Heartbeat has.
Yeah, as a father of exactly five daughters, we would never do what my opponent says and strap them to a gurney and watch them die. I find that horrific.
Address the Republican claims that you support an abortion up until birth, and explain a scenario where you would ever approve of that or allow a woman to have that right.
Yeah, again, sometimes I feel like I'm just running in some world of lies that I have no control over. That honestly, it's shocking to me that they even put them out there, Dave, because they're almost unbelievable. There is no woman, as a mother who's had 2 children, there's no woman that carries a baby to term and then decides that it should be killed. To even frame any piece of policy around that's absolutely, it's really ridiculous. But even more so, it's a really harmful narrative because people actually believe that. Now, my goodness, first of all, that's murder, okay? So this isn't even happening. The Republicans, unfortunately, are real good at crafting language in a way that too many people believe that their hearts are in the right place, but in reality, their policy is really bad. And in this case, they're trying to paint me as somebody who, just wants to kill children. I wouldn't be a mother if I wanted to do that. Listen, everybody knows where I stand on this issue. I support women being able to make the right to choose, and we need to get back to Roe v. Wade, which is why I voted to codify the Roe v. Wade essentially within the Women's Health Protection Act that I just voted for a couple months ago. And that means getting back to the standard, folks. Not what is being lied about on me and others saying that we believe in this nonsense. So let me make it very clear. I don't believe in women having children and then murdering them. To say so under the guise of abortion literally is malpractice on the Republican Party's side to convince people of something that isn't happening.
So this would be, in your mind, the only way this could happen is if some kind of medical emergency with the mother toward the end of the pregnancy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's not one woman I know that would be giving birth and then wants to kill their child. The only time anything that's ever happened is when a mother's life would be at risk. That's it. That's never a decision that anybody would ever want to make, ever. It's the most horrible decision that a mother and a father would have to make at that time. We shouldn't be politicizing something like that.
Talk about another part of commercials has been the proxy vote that you and other members of Congress have made. Yours is the one against you is when you're on that pre-planned vacation to France. At the end of the day, do you think when you cite a COVID-19 health emergency as the reason a proxy vote, does that get disingenuous because it's not truly the reason for it?
Well, so let me make sure the audience is really clear on what happened. August is the time where we have the only month essentially in the year where there's nothing scheduled, okay?
Usually.
Yeah, usually. And as a parent, and most parents will know this, we're always stuck to the school schedule, right, for taking any vacation. It was our 28th wedding anniversary. Both my boys were going off to school. We saved 3-4 years to take a trip. And we had it planned during the only 2 weeks in the whole year where my kids either weren't in school or going off to school and I didn't have to work. Well, the Senate finally got their act together a year after we passed a bill, and then a special vote was called. About 170 colleagues, including myself, voted remotely. That also included Marionette Miller Meeks, a Republican serving in another district. Now, these folks didn't have COVID either, okay? The only language that you can use to vote remotely is baked in, and you have to use that COVID language, or you can't vote remotely. So basically what I had to do, Dave, was make a choice. Do I make a choice to stand up for Iowa voters and vote for a bill that's going to put money in their pockets with the Inflation Reduction Act and capping insulin at $35 a month? Heck yeah. Because every time I go out into this district and I have to speak with one more person who can't afford their electric bill and their prescription drugs, especially diabetes insulin, that's what I'm doing this job for. And so I'll take the hit if I'm on a vacation, because that vacation was planned months in advance, well before this vote, and sometimes stuff just comes up. But you know what? When stuff comes up, I think people should still do their job. I don't think you should shy away from something. And I knew I would take a hit because I wasn't able to do it right there. But folks, keep in mind, almost 200 other people voted this way. They used the exact same language, and folks have been doing it since we started proxy voting. Almost 80% of the House has proxy voted at some point. And I'd like to point out that the Republicans who are running this ad against me, when their entire delegation in Congress, when they had their national CPAC conference, they came into the chambers for the first couple days of the week, voted, then left, went down and conducted their live Republican conference, and proxy voted in from there. So please, I mean, this is ridiculous at this point. maybe Zach Nunn should just have something good to run on, as opposed to literally stalking my teenage son and spying on his social media and then using it to try and attack me. What I do hope is that Iowans know that I'm as hardworking as it gets, that I'm transparent, that I will do everything I can to work for the state. And if it means these guys are going to rake me over the coals because I took a good vote for Iowa, I hope Iowans know that I took that vote because it was the best thing to do for our state.
What she had said is that there are others who did it. Mariannette Miller Meeks has also used this provision numerous times here. So is this something you said you would get rid of?
Yeah.
Is there no value at all to proxy voting in your mind?
Not when you're doing it 100+ times. I mean, it's a situation here where we have a senator like Senator Grassley, who has shown up over the course of his career and made it a priority to vote. I think that's important. What you can't do is to tell the American people, I'm not showing up because of COVID, and then take a vacation. What you can't do is have an important bill like the Inflation Reduction Act that could have included things like early learning, which should have been in that bill, and then try and claim credit for it on your Twitter account while you're out there eating a croissant. I think this is a situation where Iowans have an expectation that the federal government tried to shut Iowa down, and we remained open, and as a result, we were successful.
So anybody who used proxy voting, that's wrong, Republican or Democrat?
We need to end it.
If they're not
Let's
sick?
just be clear. We need to end it. That's something that if I'm elected, that will be a first priority. It's a procedural issue that Nancy Pelosi took advantage of to give her people the opportunity to go out and do whatever. Now we end it.
All right, coming up, these two on what to do about prices that are too high.